Welcome to episode 20 of Two Man Game with Jared and Dame. I'm Jared. That's Damon. It is 8:24 p.m. on Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. Damon flexing the guns as he is wont to do. How are you doing today, Damon?
I'm alive and well, and football is here. We are 4 weeks away from the NFL playoffs, no weeks away from the fantasy football playoffs, which we'll touch on in a second. Bye weeks are over. We're in the home stretch. Things are good. Things are popping. I got NBA Cup on this monitor over here. I got Jared's face right in front of me. That's always lovely. And I have the outline of what we're going to talk about on this monitor. Three monitors all going to work all at the same time. Jared, how are you doing?
I should get a projector and project whatever basketball game is happening during the podcast so you can just go solo monitor. That'd be kind of cool. I'm
Mm.
doing all right. Addie had a friend in town this week. That was nice. My buddy Ted very generously hooked me up with some VR stuff, so we've been playing a lot of VR. That's been fun. And yeah, we had talked about how we were very likely to meet in the playoff, and I said, well, there's still a chance if I beat my opponent, and they also don't score in the top half of the league because that counts for second win in the week, then I could overtake them in the standings. And all of the fates conspired for that to be true. I scored 45 points to my opponent, 71 points. I tied them in record, but they had so many points for that I
So many
still,
points for it. There's no way you could
so many
catch
points
up.
for because they're a juggernaut. The fact that they had 71 in a week is crazy. Um, and that was with me having three of my starters on bye, by the way. That I still ended up behind them by about 90 full points or so in the standings, maybe 80 points. So it is you and I, as it was always meant
Yes,
to be, Damon.
sir. No, championship matchup as maybe the Fates really wanted, but a first round matchup in the playoffs, so to speak, not so to speak, it is literally happening. Um, let's talk about who we have going. Who has the edge here?
Yeah, this list too is a 54% win probability favorite, 7 point difference in the projections. I think um, that is a small enough margin that I'm not super panicked about that as a portent. But it's going to be a really exciting, tense matchup. Do you want to go through your roster first, or position by
Yes.
position, or what?
Yeah. Let's go roster by roster, position by position. I think will just take way too long, and we have so much to get to today. But 130 points, my projection, 123 yours. But that's always inaccurate. Like you said, your opponent scored 71, you projected or you scored 145. None of y'all's projections were probably close to those two numbers. Yet that's what
No.
happens. Um, so I'll go through who I currently have in my starting lineup at QB, Jackson Dart, running backs Chase Brown and Saquon Barkley, receivers Amon-Ra St. Brown and Wan'Dale Robinson, tight end Jake Ferguson, flex currently I have Justin Jefferson, a Panthers defense playing the Saints this week, and then Brandon Aubrey, who's a freak show kicker in that spot. And then I'm not wholly decided on like every aspect of my lineup. I do have Jameson Williams on the bench. I do have Breece Hall on the bench, Jaden Daniels, and Michael Wilson, all of which who are fine, relevant players. Um, if you have seen Justin Jefferson's production with JJ McCarthy lately, that is why I'm not sold on that spot in my lineup, and I have suitable
Yeah.
pieces on the bench, but I think we'll kind of see as the week dwindles down what my ultimate decision is there.
Yeah, I'll go through my lineup here. I've got a couple Patriots coming off by. So we've got Drake May at quarterback, Jahmyr Gibbs at running back, alongside RJ Harvey of the Broncos. Wide receiver Michael Pittman for the Colts is currently in my lineup. That will change. Jordan Addison is my other wide receiver for the Vikings. Dallas apparently is the 32nd ranked fantasy defense, so fingers crossed. Brock Bowers at tight end for the Raiders has been consistent despite the team struggles. Travion Henderson returns to my flex spot. Jags defense and currently have the Bengals kicker Evan McPherson because I like the matchup against Baltimore more than I like the Patriots kicker against Buffalo. I forgot about the whole Daniel Jones thing, which we'll get to later, but I think we're
Right.
gonna end up seeing one of my other below average wide receivers, except for this week and the subsequent weeks when they suddenly turn into the juggernauts I always knew they were. Knock on desk. So we might see Quentin Johnston or Ricky Pearsall step into that spot because those are my only options. And
Or a
notable
potential
benching.
Thursday night return from Mike Evans.
That's okay. Honestly, I might scope the waiver wire because there's a real chance someone's sitting on waivers who is a better wide receiver than Michael Pittman for me right now. Um, yeah, I have Kyron Williams on the bench because he's a Ram. He's playing my Lions. I don't play that way. I'll live by the sword, die by the sword. I thought about breaking my rule, but I just don't want to see that happen. So,
The Lions
really
are
big.
also like a rel like they do well against running backs in terms of fantasy points.
Absolutely. I think they're pretty solid defense. I feel like I may have started some Vikings against the Lions earlier this season, so I don't know why I've decided to return to my convictions. But uh, either way, I definitely think you have probably safer wideout room right now. I think our running backs are probably close to a toss up. And I feel maybe better at like the tight end spot, but definitely going to be hotly contested in a lot of spots. And we will of course keep the loyal listener updated.
Yeah, I could really see my biggest worry facing you, honestly, is two of Drake May, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Brock Bowers just absolutely exploding and having like insane games, which Gibbs has been wanting to do several times this season. And then the other two here and there. But that's the biggest concern. I think I have the name of value, Justin Jefferson, Saquon Barkley, but in terms of fantasy production, they have not exactly been the superstars we know they can be. So it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to see the results this week.
no doubt. Vegas a good matchup for Saquon. Yeah, I don't want to drag us down too much through this discussion because there is a lot to talk about in the league. This is a really exciting week and also a really
Comment who you think
exciting
is gonna
week.
win.
Are we picking or
No, I said comment who you think's gonna win
Oh,
between
yes,
us.
please engage. Engage, vote for me or perish. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some college football news. Not something we normally touch on, but the playoff bracket has been announced as well as the finalists for the Heisman. I got some bad news on the playoff front. Vanderbilt just on the outside looking in, but some
Uh,
great news on the Heisman front. Do you want to take us through the four finalists, Damon, and maybe we can skip the stats unless there are any that call out to you?
yes, I put the stats here for my reference because I think we should make very bash picks based on little to no college football watching and just stats because that's funny. But the finalists were quarterback Fernando Mendoza, Indiana, quarterback Julian Sayed for Ohio State, Jared's own Diego Pavia, quarterback for Vanderbilt, and then running back Jeremiah Love of Notre Dame, who we'll also talk about in a second.
Yeah. We're making our pick?
Yes, please make your unbiased No,
Well,
I
let
know
me
who
let
you
me
would
let
say.
me just use these stats if I may. Okay.
Sure, please go
Um,
ahead.
which of these players has the most yards? It's Diego. Okay.
The most all-purpose yards for sure. A lot of
Most
rushing.
all-purpose yards. I'm trying to figure out. Okay, he's got the second most tugs on this list, it looks like. So I honestly also I think that Vanderbilt had a really good season for the team. I mean, listen, I'm sure like Fernando Mendoza with the number one seed, Indiana, getting past Ohio State in that last week is really going to influence the voters. But my hope is that the recognition of what Pavia has done for the Vanderbilt school and having watched him play, he is just an electric bowling ball. I'd love to see him get some love. But yeah, I would say I'm going to go Pavia, just be a homer, and I don't care enough to change my pick.
Yeah, Jared went to Vanderbilt, if the listener does not know. So that is the homerism he speaks of. I think what's interesting also for these stats, and if people look up the stats, what's interesting to note the difference in CFB and NFL. Um, Quarterback sacks count as rushing yards. So
Oh, interesting.
yes, for example, Ohio State's quarterback has 37 carries, but he was 11 of those were actually him getting sacked. So really, he has 26 carries, and he was sacked 11 times for a total of -2 yards because they go towards his rushing yard total when you are sacked behind the line of scrimmage. Not a thing in the NFL, is a thing in college football. Um, I'm basically happy with anyone that isn't Julian saying Ohio State's quarterback winning because that's a really talented program with a lot of good players. And Vanderbilt, not typically a team up here in these conversations. Fernando Mendoza leading Indiana to an undefeated season against several big schools is awesome because they're a big school, but they're not like one of the schools in college football, right? And then I think a running back having all of this yardage for Jeremiah Love, and not a single fumble lost is also impressive for the amount that he touched the ball like 300 times.
That's very valid, but I am going to make an observation here. Pavia by himself on the ground, including sacks, had 826 rushing yards. Jeremiah Love, the running back nominated here, 1,372 rushing yards. So
Correct.
I think that to me, if I am looking at this, it feels like it's probably going to be a two-man race between Mendoza and Pavia, just in
Yeah.
terms of overall resume.
I'd
I
say
would say
that's my
Pav.
top two. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what it'll be between. It'll probably go to Mendoza for team success, but um, rooting for Pavia because he's a baller shot caller, and I'm really curious as we come around combine season whether he tries to enter the league as a quarterback, changes positions. He's just got football written all over him. I don't see him giving up at this point.
Yeah. It will be interesting. And it's also interesting. Number nine, Notre Dame is what they were officially ranked. Yet they did not make the top 12 college football playoff bracket because of some kind of interesting rules and perhaps a snub or two, what they think they had. So, do you want to break down? Do you want to like quickly go through the bracket and then maybe talk about a team or two that they were could have been placed in front of?
Yeah, it's important to note for the listener that winners of certain divisions, regardless of
Correct.
their placement as a team, will make it, which means that I believe both Tulane and James Madison, who are the 11 and
Correct.
12 seed, were going to make it
Because they
regardless. And
won
so
their
I don't think
conferences.
won their conferences. So I don't think Notre Dame had a chance to knock them off the list. Um, I'll take the left side of the bracket. You take the right side.
Sure.
Alabama, number 9 seed, will play Oklahoma, the number 8 seed, for the chance to take on Indiana in the next round of the bracket. Meanwhile, James Madison University, the 12 seed, will take on 5 seed Oregon for a
They
chance
will
to
get
match up,
demolished. Yes.
in all likelihood, for a chance to play against Texas Tech. And so the winner of Texas Tech and the 5-12 matchup and Indiana and the 8-9 matchup are going to decide the left side of the bracket here.
Gotcha. Over on the right side, we have Miami as the 10 seed, taking on A&M as the 7 seed. That should be a fun first round matchup. Winner of that gets to take on Ohio State, sitting at the 2 seed right now. And then the other part of the matchup we have here is 6 seed Ole Miss taking on the aforementioned 11 seed Tulane. And the winner of that gets to battle the 3 seed at Georgia. A winner of those two matchups, Ohio State versus the 7-10, Georgia versus the 6-11, will make that right side of the bracket.
Um, Side note, Addy, Tulane alum, go roll wave, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Kind of fun that that's the already hired coaches bowl where Lane Kiffin left Ole Miss for LSU before this playoff game, whereas Tulane coach John Summerall has been hired at Florida but is staying presumably through the playoffs. So it would
That
be
is
really
crazy that you would
hilarious.
leave before the playoff run. That's nuts.
I think it's the idea of needing to scout and like the fact that signing day happened, I want to say last week, something to that effect.
Does
But
like
yeah,
your coaching contract not carry you through the playoffs for the previous team? Like, how does that
it's
work?
it's pretty controversial, I think. There's been a lot of talk about Kiffin leaving early. That said, Ole Miss has already announced that I believe the defensive coordinator has taken over as head coach and will remain head coach following the playoff.
That's
So he's the
awesome.
permanent replacement. But Yeah, it's kind of like a loyalty versus team that was snubbed by a lack of loyalty bowl, which is kind of fun.
Mm.
Um, of the teams here that were probably the shakiest resume in my limited
Yeah,
awareness,
we didn't
Alabama and
talk.
Miami.
Yeah, we didn't talk about I did actually mention the Notre Dame thing. So if you're not familiar, Notre Dame, not in the 12 teams we just named. Um, a lot of people think that they were snubbed from this playoff picture, and subsequently withdrew their name from playing in a bowl game separately, as they want to focus on the 2026 season and beyond. So, Jared, you were about to mention, sorry, the subpar or shaky, I think is the word you use, teams that
Yeah, sorry. Again,
Notre
I'm
Dame could
pretty
have.
limited. I remember
Yeah.
reading a lot of like just tweets, to be honest, about how Miami and Vanderbilt had very similar resumes, and so the fact that Miami was like, right around Vanderbilt's ranking and then suddenly jumps Notre Dame. I'm not really familiar with what the playoffs, what the college football argument was for not putting Notre Dame in. So very strange. And then, Alabama has been good but not dominant. They did beat Vanderbilt. I don't want to comment too much on that. I will say, with respect to Austin, I am glad Texas was snubbed. I think if they had made it, it would have been on the strength of their preseason number one ranking.
Oh,
So I
yeah,
could live with that.
Texas didn't deserve to make it, no. Um, I'll say this, Notre Dame, who is upset that they did not make it. One of the teams we talked about, Miami, they lost to Miami to open the season by 3 points. You don't lose to Miami, you probably get in over Miami. And so that's like one big thing. And Alabama is definitely, I think, the strongest case because it's more of a reputation case than anything else. Because they're a prestigious football school. So that I think is probably the argument that makes the most sense to me.
A point that I've heard made on Heed the Call about this season in the NFL, that I'm gonna say in response to the Miami comment. Week one, the Raiders beat the Patriots. So
True.
if we're really counting the first game of the season as some sort of defining aspect of the team, I think that that's a little bit flawed. Um, Either way, I'm not super invested. I'm excited. I am personally at this point in the bracket rooting for Tulane and A&M. I would love to see them go as far as they possibly can. I think A&M has a more realistic chance maybe than Tulane does, but either way, it'll be super fun to watch. Um, but we know that for the listener, the most fun thing to watch is NFL football. So let's talk about the Hall of Fame finalists announced. They've announced five finalists in three of the core categories, the contributor, coach, and senior category. So this is not all finalists. This is the finalist for those categories.
Hmm.
It is not necessarily guaranteed that they will make it into the hall based on this list, but this puts them into the short list to be considered. And if 80% of the members of the Hall of Fame selection committee approve them, they will go into the hall. So, um, do you want to take us through our contributor, and then I'll take our coach here?
Thanks, Jared. I will take contributor Robert Kraft. Yuck.
You love
Um,
Robert Kraft. You talk about him
I
constantly.
I don't like Robert Kraft because he's a bad guy. And you know what? He still owns and runs the Patriots, so it's weird that he would be in the hall running. It feels like that should happen post football running like it does for players, but I guess not.
I wonder if part of the concern there is that a lot of that would end up being posthumous,
Right.
and you don't necessarily want that. But yeah, you definitely think like if he's stepping down or stepping away. In a very similar vein, the coach, who's a finalist, is Bill Belichick. I would be positively stunned if he was not pushed through immediately. I think he
For
is
sure.
absolutely a Hall of Fame coach. And then there are three contributors as well. Two of whom I'm pretty familiar with, and the other one I've more heard his name than know him as a player. So those three are Bengals quarterback Ken Anderson,
Uh,
and
Apparently won an MVP, by the way. No idea that that happened, but crazy.
yeah, I mean, I definitely recognize the name, and I would say before Carson Palmer and Andy Dalton and Joe Burrow, there hadn't been a Bengals quarterback I could think of in that bracket. And I would certainly
Right.
say, you know, Carson Palmer is a Hall of Very Good quarterback. I don't think
Yeah.
Dalton even rises to that. So, one of the more important figures
Hall
in
of
that
Hall
team's
of great
history,
nicknames, perhaps.
um, for the Red Rifle.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The second is wide receiver, or I guess running back.
Running
Gee,
back.
my
Yep.
my apologies. Roger Craig for the Niners. I don't know why I thought he was a wide receiver. But he had very successful seasons, including being the first player in the NFL to ever get 1,000 yards rushing and receiving in the same season. This was back in 1985, followed only by Marshall Faulk and Christian McCaffrey. Had three Super Bowls with the Niners as well, and an Offensive Player of the Year nod. So definitely a very storied career. And then we take our defender of fame.
Yes, I will take L.C. Greenwood, who was a member of the Steel Curtain Steelers back in the 1970s. Played his entire career with the Steelers. That's always nice to see. Drafted in the 10th round when there were 10 rounds, which is insane. Um, but yeah, he was a part of that team that won four Super Bowls ultimately as that awesome defensive end on that D line. Obviously, I think everyone knows like Mean Joe Green, right, from that era, but there's another very talented and highly touted player from there.
A lot of really good green defenders on this
Mm,
Steelers club,
hmm.
apparently. Yeah, so this means that if this is someone I don't think we'd necessarily gone through all of these nominees necessarily. We talked about the coaches previously, but we are now at the point where the only finalists left to be decided are the modern era players, which we had gone over in a previous podcast. 11 of those names will be cut, and then the selection committee will meet and decide with a minimum of three and maximum of five modern players who played their last game after 2000. And there may be up to three finalists from the coach, contributor, and senior candidates. So, um, before between 4 and 8 new members will join the hall this year per their website.
Yeah, so we will update on what happens next with that, but those are the finalists in that category. I think you and me, and probably the listener as well, if I would imagine, more excited to see the modern era player finalist than these categories because not really our timeline or specified interest.
Yeah, no, it's something we'll circle. Speaking of circles, uh, coins are circles, and
Okay,
coins are money. Okay. And
excellent.
money is what you get when a lot of people watch your football game. And that's great
Ah,
news for the NFL because this year's NFL Thanksgiving Day slate set an NFL record for viewership with an average of 44.7 million viewers across the games. It's a 30% uptick from last year, though I think it's important to note that one reason this may be is if I'm mistaken, I apologize. I was reading that apparently streaming numbers from like non-television devices are being woven into this as well. So like streaming games on your phone, that kind of thing, is now being
mm-hmm.
added to these viewership numbers, as
Mm.
far as I understand. So some of this uptick may be in part
It's
a
just natural.
reflection of, yeah,
Yeah, I see.
newer mediums here. So
I don't know how to
um,
read, so I'll take your word for it.
yeah, yeah, I was reading an article that was like Packers Lions most watched game ever for a few hours, because Chiefs Cowboys with 57.2 million viewers made it the most watched regular season game ever again, depending on how these metrics work. I would say in general, it's probably fair to assume more people watch every year, so probably still a record, even if it isn't as big of a jump as it may appear based on the
Right.
change in how this is tabulated. Um, Damon, take us through as the one voice who spans both ethical ball projects. Take us through this award about being ethical that has been
Uh,
announced here.
I'm incredibly ethical, so I will talk about the 2025 NFL Art Rooney Sportsmanship Award finalists. There were eight in total, I believe. DeForest Buckner for the Colts, Harrison Phillips for the Jets, Zach Seiler
Yeah, that sounds right, Sealer, I think.
for the Dolphins, Kyle Van Noy for the Ravens, Buda Baker. I typed actual Buddha. There's definitely not an H in there. For the Cardinals, Levante David for the Buccaneers, Demario Davis for the Saints, and Brian O'Neill for the Vikings. So those are the top eight um, Sportsmanship Award finalists. Not sure how they determine that, but I hope that one of the old guys gets it. Maybe like Demario Davis. He's been around for a while. Um, Buda Baker is a name that I have always appreciated. I feel like I literally can remember Levante David talking trash to people on the Bucks championship run, but maybe I'm mistaking him with somebody else.
Well, maybe
uh,
maybe this is part of his redemption arc.
fair,
Kyle Van Noy's a former Lion, so that's cool.
but he's
Um,
also a former Patriot, and that
tough.
takes precedence in my brain more than the Lions thing, I think.
Lions
Because I
traded
think
him to
he
the
was on
Patriots.
that. He was on one of those teams that made the Super Bowl, I think.
Sounds right. He was maybe definitely later run. But yeah,
Later, later,
you
yeah.
make a good point. A lot of seasoned players here. And I would say that if you are a New York Jet and you've managed to be a positive presence through a really difficult season, maybe that's a good
Congratulations.
reason to nod. Well, I'm just saying. I mean, honestly, Harrison Phillips traded from the Vikings, who at least looked more competitive at the start of the season, to the
Yeah,
Jets before the season starts. So, to come into a new locker room, if you're being a really positive presence and acknowledged for this, I have a lot of respect for that.
that's a great point by you.
Thank you. Similarly, they've announced the Walter Payton Man of the Year winners for each team. Apparently, I was listening to the game broadcast. They were saying now they view it as instead of being a nominee, each team has an individual like team winner. I don't know if they are still doing the overall Man of the
They
Year. I
will
assume
do
they
an
would.
overall winner, yes.
Yeah.
And I know
Um.
because every game they were like, this team's winner is this person. In
Yep.
February, we will talk about the overall winner. That was kind of the spiel.
I'm now desperately scouring the list to see whether it was only the Saints who nominated the same guy twice.
Yes, I noticed that Demario Davis gets a Man of the Year win and an Art Rooney Sportsmanship finalist. So he must be extremely ethical. Ethical Baller of the Week to Demario Davis. Congratulations. Spot Ethical Baller of the Week, sponsored by FanDuel. FanDuel, just kidding. If
Enter
that ever
code
happens,
ethical
turn
for
turn this podcast off if that ever happens. We hate gambling. We'll never be sponsored by gambling. But if you're not a gambling brand and you happen to have stumbled upon this mediocre product and want to sponsor us, please um, hit me up, as they say.
if I here's my pitch is I want FanDuel to sponsor us and we have code ethical, but when you type in code ethical, it breaks the app and then immediately removes it from your phone. That would be
Mm,
pretty sweet. I did want to call out
yeah,
because we don't want to read necessarily every name, but
no,
calling out any that grabbed our eye. Uh Quincy Williams of the Jets got the nod for their team's Walter Payton Man of the Year. I think that's cool because there were talks that he might be traded alongside his brother to the Cowboys. Instead, Quinnen goes, Quincy stays, kind of getting split up. And if I understand, in the middle of the season, was kind of being benched by Aaron
correct.
Glenn. And so for the team to come out and say, "Hey, we still really value you, regardless of what's going on the field or trade talks," I think that's a really cool way to honor a player who clearly is respected as a leader in the locker room. I think that's just a nice gesture.
I'll take a funny take on a name that pops out to me. That's Brown safety Grant Delpit for when they played the Ravens earlier this year, and they asked him how hard is Derrick Henry to tackle, and he was like, "He's not that hard to tackle." And then he had a really good tackle on Derrick Henry during that game. Um, so that's funny.
That is funny. I'm gonna call out maybe. I just want to note that Ted Karras, that's
Hmm
Karras of the
hmm
Bengals, is I think the most evergreen football name of all time. You could tell me he played in any era, and I would
Yeah,
believe it.
yeah. That's a
Um,
1932 NFL player for sure.
Seriously. But it's nice to see some players who are lower profile. Some of these guys are starting quarterbacks, whatever. Then you have like Curtis Robinson for the Niners or CJ Ham for the Vikings, who are certainly not like
Legendary
the
fullback.
CJ Ham. Is
Yeah.
Curtis Robinson's a running back? Question mark. Like some of these names I'm not even super
I have
familiar with.
no idea who that
I'm,
is,
I'm
so
working on it. I think I'm
I
confusing him
couldn't
with
say.
Brian Robinson, actually.
That's
Um,
definitely a different player. I'll shout
yep.
out while you're looking that up. Deion Dawkins. We talked about him winning NFLPA Man Player of the Week or whatever a couple of times for the stuff he does out there in Buffalo. So no surprise that he's a final or a winner for his team.
I was watching the Patreon subscriber exclusive live stream of Holiday touchdown,
That
a Bills
was
love story
way too
offered
many
by Heed the Call
words.
podcast. Everyone knows I love them. And there was a scene with Deion Dawkins in it. They were doing a scene where they were at a hospital and the players were giving back, and Damar Hamlin was there, and Deion Dawkins, and a third Bill whose name eludes me. But anyway, Deion Dawkins.
Christian Binford. That's my guess. I don't know why.
It was most certainly not. Unfortunately, it was not. Shout out Sean McDermott for acting in this film. Good effort. Curtis Robinson was a linebacker. Is a linebacker for the
That's what
Niners.
you
So
said, so that's all right.
yeah, I said
No
running
one's gonna
back.
remember. We've been talking for so long. No one remembers what position you originally said.
That's true. We actually, this is a fun fact. In our Spotify Wrapped, it said, "God, won't y'all just shut up for a minute?" Um, that was like a custom story, I think. And most people didn't
Yeah,
get that. But that's okay. We won't shut up because we need to talk about a massive week of football. This was a game changer for several teams. The AFC playoff picture will not be the same. Fundamental alterations. It is a huge, huge week. Of course, we are going to start right at the top with our wheel games every week. We spin a wheel, we get a team. I watch my team's game, you watch your team's game. We come back and we talk about it. And mine,
correct.
unfortunately, did not have playoff implications, but it was a pretty fun watch, all things
Yeah,
considered. I definitely watched it from a Titans perspective and not a Browns perspective, even though the Browns were my team. This was Titans 31 at Browns 29. A shockingly high scoring affair between the Titans and the Browns. Titans able to take advantage of several Browns miscues. There was a blocked punt in this game. I believe I recall seeing a pick as well. I watched half of this game on Sunday and then watched the second half today. I wanted to clear the slate on Sunday for a more riveting contest we'll get to later. Uh, Overall, I can't say that this was like a wow, these teams were playing electric football type game. Titans really slowed down in the second half, allowed the Browns to get back into this one. Browns attempted a 2 point conversion twice. The first time they did so down at that point, they had just scored a touchdown, so they were down 8. So they wanted the chance to win with an extra point if they scored again. That one fails. Shadur Sanders botches the snap, and it's picked up by a Titan. And then later, they go for it pretty much at the end of the game. It's the game deciding play. Will it go to overtime or will it not? Direct snap to, I want to say it was Quinshon Judkins.
it was
Also, yep. Sniffed out, shut down. I
disaster of
actually,
a play.
it was
That
tough.
was horrible.
The Browns absolutely detonated on those plays. Real quick on the Titans, and then I'll jump over to the Browns. I think the Titans have a couple of those guys who are 3 and 4 guys. Like Chimere Dike as a returner has been
It's been great.
a guy who comes up a lot. Granted, because he the call is a Titans fan resident. So, but he was making some nice plays. He reminds me a lot of Khalif Raymond for my Lions, who's been a great kind of wide receiver 3-4 contributor. And I think once they get more talent on that team, no Calvin Ridley right now, he'll slot in more naturally. I think Cam Ward had a solid game, and Tony Pollard was having a great game on the ground.
Crushed them.
Absolutely, yeah, explosive running. I believe it's Tyjae Spears had a nice run that was called back on a penalty as well. The abridged game sometimes it cuts what the penalties are, but they lost 10 yards instead of gaining the X number that he'd run for. But
Right.
overall, I think Tennessee did a nice job mitigating the impact of Myles Garrett and marching down the field. Really hot start. They had their first opening drive touchdown of the year, and that also
I wanna
constituted Cam Ward's eighth passing touchdown.
I wanna say while you're talking, I will not be listening because Raptors Knicks NBA Cup game is happening, and I got the person on the unicycle flipping bowls on their head during the halftime show.
Hmm.
So I'm no longer paying attention to you. But the listener is. So
Do cup games count for the regular season, by the way?
they all count for the regular season except for the championship one.
Thank you. Back to Titans Browns. Enjoy the Bulls. Enjoy the unicycle. I think this was an interesting game for the Browns because obviously the narrative at this point is what is Shedeur, right? Is Shedeur Sanders a quarterback that they want to invest in? They're going to be keeping him as the starter for the rest of the season, per head coach Kevin Stefanski, and opened the practice window for quarterback Deshaun Watson before this game. I hope he's practicing being released because that will be a good day. Um, I,
He
I
sure did love to practice that in his previous stop, that's for sure.
oh man.
Uh,
Um,
he
Unethical joke
unethical
of the
take of the
week.
week.
Yep.
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
That was wow.
Uh, tough.
Okay. Transitioning to Shedeur Sanders. I think Shedeur had a couple balls that were really well placed. He actually had two looked like an identical catch, except Njoku, the tight end, got injured on one of them, but it was like kind of back corner of the end zone to the tight end, sort of the back shoulder. And it was they were two really nice plays, one to Njoku, one to Fannin. I I do wonder whether a more strongly supported Shedeur could be something. Mark Schlereth was on the call and was talking about how he's really good against man and not so good against zone. But to me, that feels like something you can learn, right? If you're able to put the ball in the right place in man coverage, if you can read zone better, he had an abysmal pick in either the third or the start of the fourth that was just like throwing it to nobody in the middle of the field, just a mistake you can't make, trying to escape pressure, just silly season. And that'll happen. But I overall was pleased enough with what he was giving. And I think the Browns have a young core on offense now with Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson, another running talent for them. A lot to build around in that respect. Myles Garrett is still Myles Garrett. The defense looked a little toothless today. Or today, I say, when they played on Sunday. The defense looked a little toothless. I thought they didn't necessarily swarm or out scheme the Titans in a way that I would hope that a defense of their stature would. We did still get a sack for Myles Garrett. That was the big talk of this game. But overall, this turned out to be a fun contest. And I'm curious to see whether Shador puts enough on tape to give the Browns, to at least give a run to whoever the Browns attempt to draft, if anybody in this next draft, holding the Jags first round pick as well, gives them a chance to move up. But pretty fun game. Pretty fun game. Had a good time with it, and I think there are some players on the Browns to be genuinely optimistic about.
Yeah. 31 points from the Titans against a defense that we've kind of praised all season is a little crazy. I also appreciated when the Titans defense got stops and turnovers. They did the Shador. They did the hold the watch up.
Oh, did they
Like,
really? Oh, that's
yeah, they
funny.
did that a couple of times, which was fun. And then Shador did it when he got that rushing touchdown near the end of the game to almost tie it up prior to the failed 2-point conversion. So that was nice to see too. I think, you talked about him already. I think the ceiling, like you could see it. You could see the path. You could see the vision of like, oh, this guy could be like a legitimate starting quarterback. Yeah, there's still the flaws, the early on flaws, but it's definitely there. Um, shall we move to my wheel game?
I do want to make one or two more brief comments, just super fast. Titans defense was swarming. Jeffrey Simmons had a red undershirt this whole game, and I really liked that a player was identifiable by something other than name and number, especially because of how NFL players are often bending or in a pile. It's really hard to tell who's who. I think NFL teams should make non-standardized undershirts more of a thing. It would be kind of nice if, like, you know, linebacker X was always wearing yellow under their jersey, so you always knew who we were looking at. Maybe it's a more complementary color for your jersey, but
Sure.
um, please tell us about Steelers Ravens.
All right. Steelers at Ravens is the game I watched. Ravens were my team. They took the
Wait,
L.
I forgot about trivia. I had a trivia question for you.
I'm ready for trivia.
What before this game? What was the Titans' average points per game?
Oh man, it's a decimal, I imagine.
It's a it's a decimal. If you give me the nearest whole number, I would accept it.
I'll take six.
So I do want to let you know that's an insane guess.
Yeah,
That's crazy. That's less than a touchdown a game, which
correct.
if that's happening for any team in the league, I don't even know what to do. The reason I was fine with the decimal is because it actually was a whole number.
Mm.
Just a flat 14 points a game.
Hey, six isn't
Um,
that far off.
Six isn't that far off. It would be really hard to
Like
average
you
six
get
points
shut
a
out a
game.
couple times, you get a couple field goals.
That's true. I mean, like I could see that being true probably through like if you told me through week 6 of a season a team was averaging 6 points a game, I could get there, you know?
If you
Um,
told me that the highest the Titans had scored prior to this game were 21, I would believe you. So
I will look that up as you resume introducing your game. I'm very sorry. I was just wanting to get that trivia in at an organic time,
I
so I
imagine
stopped
that
everything.
that is probably the lowest in the NFL, 14. I would
I would have to assume.
assume. Yeah. That is very low. Two touchdowns in 2025 NFL, not a lot. So, Steelers 27 at Ravens 22. This was a game going into it where I thought the Ravens were going to beat the Steelers and take control of the division. The opposite happened. I still have more confidence in the Ravens, oddly enough, despite the loss here. I'll talk about the game first before I get into a bunch of stuff I wrote down on the document. Uh, Lamar Jackson is still clearly hampered in some way. That was my biggest takeaway from this game. Since coming back, he has not been this kind of stellar dual threat quarterback as we've known him to be, rushing a ton on the ground and then also being pretty elite through the air. He's not running a lot at all. He is kind of playing like a pocket quarterback right now, which we know is not like him. A lot of checkdowns in this game, which is not a Ravens thing because Lamar runs so often, and of course Derrick Henry is not a great pass catcher. And it wasn't even Justice Hill. I have to look up his name. His last name
Oh,
is
Ali.
Ali. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember his
I
first name, but
I feel like Rasheen is his first name. I just looked it up. I feel like I watched him catch 18 passes in this game, which I know is not true, but it just felt like we were constantly dumping off, which again, not a standard Ravens thing. So their offense looked very funky. And Lamar, like I said, clearly still hurt in some way, still limited in some way. And I know he's had some DNPs in terms of practice for several weeks, and then he just suits up and plays for the game anyway, because I think they're trying to rest him. Um, I hope he gets right soon. They need him to get right soon, as now they are 6-7 behind in their division by a game to the Steelers, who they just lost to. So that is tough for them, and they play another division rival in the Bengals again this week. Defense is coming together. It's looking healthier. I do think this Steelers team dropping 27 is not great. There was one play in this game that I specifically remember. Um, where they threw it out to Jalen Warren kind of in the flat on the right side, and there were two defenders, and there was some sort of clear miscommunication because I literally watched Jalen Warren just run 50 yards down to the end zone, completely untouched. No one was even near him. Like nobody was guarding him or even close to guarding him. So somebody was clearly supposed to be over in a zone, and maybe two players thought they were in the same zone. No one ended up out on that flat or on that right side of the field, and he just got home free. So that was a big miscommunication there on the defensive side. But other than that, they were relatively respectable. I think the offense just really didn't give them enough, even when they had more advantageous field position or anything like that. It was kind of a lull day for them, especially in this kind of controversial-esque play at the end of the game. Lamar throws a pretty good ball to Isaiah Likely, tight end, in the end zone. He grabs it, he steps. So that's grab, two steps, and then he kind of just like the defender is still on his back, and he kind of just drops the ball. And they rule it a touchdown, but then upon review, bring it back and say, nope, he actually didn't complete the pass. Which, of course, was a little controversial. It was at home for the Ravens, so of course the fans would have thought it went the other way. And it was when the score was 27-22, so Ravens would have taken the lead. They end up punting, I believe, instead. And then Steelers get the ball, punt back. Ravens can't convert. They end up losing the game. Regardless, this would have been a touchdown that put them over the top at some point, even if it wasn't at the end. It was pretty close at the end, though.
I believe it. I did they go for it on fourth and fail because I think they were too close to punt. Um,
That is probably more correct than what I said, despite me watching the game in real time. But that sounds correct.
I actually think I caught the end
Uh,
of this one too. So go ahead.
yeah, it was a crazy thing in last week in Thanksgiving game. Isaiah likely also fumbled out the back of the end zone um, on the goal line possession too. So a couple of fumbling issues with him there. So yeah, the Ravens offense I think really let them down in this one. I'll talk about Mark Andrews a little bit. I mentioned Isaiah Likely. Mark Andrews before this game, 3 years, $39 million extension, 26 million guaranteed. I think that probably means Isaiah Likely is gone in free agency because I don't imagine they're going to pay two tight ends an exorbitant amount of money. And Mark Andrews was like barely present in this game, so you just extend the guy on a relatively big contract for his position, and then you don't really utilize him. That's not great. Zay Flowers did have a good game though from a receiving standpoint. I'll talk about these individual players that I also wrote some stuff down about here. Offensive tackle Ben Cleveland for the Ravens suspended for 3 games for violating the substances of abuse policy. I haven't seen the kind of detail report of that, exactly what it was, but that was announced pretty recently after the game. Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf had stomach pain from a big hit he sustained during the game. Stayed overnight in Baltimore. He has been cleared by the hospital and like went home, but keep an eye on that this week. And then Steelers and corner Darius Slay parted ways before the game. I don't remember if we talked about that. And then the Bills tried to claim him, but he said, I'm actually going to take a step back from football. Not sure if he's going to play again this season or ever. So that was kind of shocking for me. Jared, this was the 39th time that Mike Tomlin and John Harbaugh have coached against each other, of course, being long, I believe the two most tenured coaches in the NFL currently. Um, 39 games, second most in NFL history of coaches against each other. Do you know who has done it the most and how many times they played one another?
I'm thinking. I've got a few guesses because I've looked ahead at the questions just so you know, so I've already thought about my answers. Um,
Naturally.
at least the Lions ones I already knew, but
Yeah, figures.
my first guess is it's actually still John Harbaugh, but with Marvin Lewis.
That's a good guess. It's not the case.
Um,
Both of these coaches are long gone out of the league.
out of the league. Okay, that does help because I was thinking like, is there a chance there's a like they're out of
Oh,
the
we're
league?
we're talking old, old, old.
Okay, is it like Curly Lambeau or
Yes,
like and George Hallis or something?
correct.
Let's go. That was insane.
Great pull. That's Packers Bears for the listeners at home.
And this was 39. I'll say 48.
49. Wow, what a pull by you.
Wow.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guessing a number
I was
like
like, okay,
48 makes sense because it's like 12 seasons
it's
worth
even,
basically,
right?
right?
Yeah. And then I'm sure there's a playoff in there or something like that.
Sure.
Um, I'm very pleased. I actually did watch this game as well, just because this one I was going back and saying, okay, what are the impactful games I really want to go back and see? This was one of them. DK Metcalf, I think, was the maybe only explosive element of the Steelers, but it was enough to get past the
Yeah.
Ravens. The Steelers are going to be miserable to have to watch in the playoffs if they
Assuming
make it.
they still got
If
to
they
make
make it,
it. But yeah,
I'll actually say this: this was a battle of two teams. I'm okay if I don't watch them in the playoffs. Um,
true.
we'll talk later about whether the Bengals can spare us. By the way, Titans follow up. Their highest point total besides this game was actually 24 points. But there was only one game over 21 besides the 31. It was that 24. And then on Sunday, December 28th, 2025, the Saints go to Nashville to play the Tennessee Titans. How cheap do you think the cheapest
Oh,
ticket
this is awesome.
on not sponsored Vivid Seats is? So this is like in the back, biggity back.
Sure. The nosebleeds of the
Like the
nosebleeds.
worst possible seat, and
Yeah.
one of the worst.
But
Well, maybe not, but
but
a
based
bad
on
seat in the house.
my limited football research, I do know that football tickets are typically more expensive than NBA tickets. But maybe that's not the case for this. I'll go like $89.
Okay. Remember when you
Did I
guessed how much
overshoot
Dallas
it?
cheerleaders made, and it was like low, and it was way too high?
Yeah.
Um, you could get two tickets. Um, there are surely fees, but you could get two tickets for 19 apiece. Um,
Wow. That's
apparently
crazy.
in these 10.0 rated seats, only 20 apiece. Um,
That's like when I went to the really, really bad Rebuilding Rockets games. That's like how much tickets were. Which makes
yeah, I
sense, but I
mean,
feel like football is just usually more expensive.
I'm gonna push this. If you are a Titans fan or a Saints fan or just a football fan and you want to give your family or like you have a kid a special experience, there are $57 tickets right behind one of the end zones. Like
Wow,
closest
that's
possible seats
awesome.
behind the end zones. And I feel like if you have a little extra income and you have someone young who doesn't care who's playing or what the score is, you can blow their mind by getting them close.
Yeah, that'd be
Um,
awesome.
if I were going back to Nashville for Christmas, I would say to my dad like, "Hey, it's going to be cold as sin, but we're never going to get a better price for
For
for football
sure.
tickets." Which is kind of cool. So, um, anyway, thank you for taking us through that game. Great
I
analysis
I
of
wanted to add on to the coaching, the longest tenured coaching thing.
yeah,
First time Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson have ever played against each other, which is crazy.
that is. I guess NFC, AFC, but still unexpected. At some point, you'd think they would have, but
Yeah. But here we are. Six MVPs
unfortunately,
right there.
yeah, this is exactly how we all wanted to see this matchup. Absolutely electric.
Right.
Uh,
Not the way I would have described it, for sure.
yeah, not exactly their prime showdown. Let's move on. Every week we have our pop games and our stop games. The games that we thought popped and the games that we wish stopped. We give them this segment a different name every week.
Correct.
I was trying to think of some earlier, Damon. What do you got?
I wasn't thinking at all, but how about games I cheer for and games that make me fearful? Is that,
Okay.
is that
Well, games that make me cheerful and games that make me fearful would work.
I could have just said cheerful. That would have made a lot more sense. Yeah.
We could do, I've seen this somewhere before, I'm sure, but games that deck the holidays and games that wreck the holidays.
Deckham and Reckham. Yeah,
Um,
we classic.
Here's one. Games that smash and games that just made my Zoom crash.
I like that. I like that. Doubling back to the holiday spirit, games that I want in my stocking and games that I want to put a sock in. That kind of
Something
works.
there. Um, yeah, holiday theme. What's that? I was gonna say, there's like that weird, not weird, no offense. Isn't there like a dessert log that people eat? You know what I'm talking about?
Dessert log.
Yeah, I was gonna do like games that eggnog, which I don't even like, and then games that dessert log. Hang on, I'm working on it.
What are you talking about?
It's a Yule log cake.
Yeah. I don't know anything about that, but I'll take your word for
Um,
it.
Games I'd watch at any expense, and games that, like this reference, don't make sense. Uh,
Nice.
thank you.
Games I want to remember and games that make me think, it's just December.
Nice, 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 nice.
Um,
Uh,
yeah, any of those, that's what this segment is. Jared, why don't you start us off with the first game?
um, I'm trying to think of like other Christmas songs. We'll do a Christmas song themed one next week. Um,
If we
okay.
remember.
Yeah, let's start at the top with a game that I'm emotionally invested in, and I know this trivia cold because I was reading
Yeah.
ahead on these blanks, so I was able to think of the other guy for the second trivia piece. Lions 44, Cowboys 30 in a battle for playoff hopes between an NFC Titan of the last few years and an NFC also ran of the past few years. The Cowboys' momentum runs out in Detroit as Jahmyr Gibbs runs over the Cowboys, scoring three more tugs, tying Barry Sanders for the most in an NFL player's first three seasons. I want to say the number is 27.
I think it's like 42 or something. It's like an insanely high number.
27 was so low. I want to say it's 47.
It's, while you look that up, and I will say, I wanted to say this earlier, since we brought him up.
47. Let's
Shout
go.
out Barry Sanders, episode 20. So, yeah, Barry Sanders, war number 20. You get it.
Coming off technical difficulties, I'm going to knock out this other piece of trivia lines. Running backs Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery have scored a touchdown in the same game 15 times, surpassing any other duo in NFL history, including the previous record holder of Emmitt Smith and Daryl Johnston.
Correct. Whose
Bang!
nickname was what? Daryl
Um,
Johnston.
I Dusty. I don't know.
That's right. It was Moose. I knew I would fool you with part of the
Darn
trivia.
it! It is Moose. He just feels like a Dusty. You know, you listen to him talk. That's
Sure.
Dusty.
Um, I couldn't tell you if I've heard that guy speak. I probably have. Couldn't tell you.
He's a commentator, so he's on one of the Fox teams, I believe.
Yeah, I need to get better at learning my commentary teams. There's so many of them.
There are a surprising amount, and if Heed the Call didn't talk about them so much, I wouldn't think about them so much. But
Hmm.
they talked about it a lot earlier in the year because he was calling another game with Montgomery and Gibbs, and then Lions social media asked Johnston and Emmitt Smith to give a message to both of them, and they did, which I thought was very considerate, especially because they broke the record against the Cowboys, which was the former team for this fabled
Correct.
duo. Um, but yes, this is a really, really good game offensively. Derek Barnes had a pick, which was awesome to see. Um, we let the Cowboys get back into this one late, but we're able to shut the gate and finish it off. And we have some difficult matchups coming up, but we needed this game in order to remain competitive and remain in the playoff picture firmly. And that's where we are right now. So we need to keep winning, but very happy to see this outcome right now.
For sure. I will shout out my man Amon-Ra St. Brown spraining his ankle early in that game last week and then coming back and being a full go, just toughing it out through an injury that could have taken him out a game or two, and I don't think it would have been super surprising. And he came back and didn't have the crazy explosion that Jahmyr Gibbs had, but did have a good, solid offensive game for the Lions.
Yeah. Super impressive of him to come back and do that. Some nice contributions from Tesla as well. Really a full team offensive effort, and that was really great to see. Also rotating in rookie guard Miles Frazier, um, a fifth round pick of ours who had spent most of the season injured. And I believe that we will probably rotate left guard between Tristan Colon and Frazier once again this coming week as Christian Magny is coming off of injury. But big, big, big game. We might have to watch it together because we have good luck when we watch this opponent in tandem. But we'll
Correct.
see how the schedules work out. Let's move on to man, maybe the most exciting game of the week, at least in terms of just a marquee matchup with all the football action you could love. Take us through it.
Yeah. This was the Bills versus Bengals matchup. Bills end up winning 39 to 34 at home in the snow. Very snowy game, which was awesome to see this time of year. And a closer game than I would have expected considering the state of these two teams and their season standings. That being said, the Bills have lost against some, I think, lower tier opponents, and the Bengals kind of trying to keep their playoff miracle alive with Joe Burrow back and healthy. So I do understand how it ended up being as close as it was. And as close as it was with the Bills win, the Bengals were leading down the stretch until a very costly Joe Burrow pick six. He just tried to lob it right to Jamar Chase on a little screen, and Christian Benford jumped it straight away, like a 60 something yard return for a touchdown. And then the following possession, Joe Burrow immediately threw another interception, and the Bills were able to kind of hold out the clock for most of the remainder of the game to kind of close it out, which was wild to see. And there were several times in this game where the Bengals, I think, had the opportunity to end it. Another play I can think of, Josh Allen, third and long, like 15 plus, went on like a 23-yard scramble or something like that for a first down, escaped the pocket and all that. So just a couple lacking plays from the Bills down the stretch to end up losing this game and effectively their playoff chances. I do think they are technically like the 1% right now, where every single thing has to go right for the rest of the season for them to barely sneak in, but they are basically done. And yeah, it was a crazy fun game to watch, especially with the weather and some of the kind of silly plays that happened. Obviously, very high scoring as well, which is fun to see. Did you have any like big takeaways from this one?
Yeah, this is the game I jumped from Browns Titans for, and I know that feels like an obvious jump, but Browns Titans was genuinely kind of exciting, and I wanted to knock my game out. But whenever you have a game this snowy, it just feels like there's a chance for an all-time classic. I think unfortunately the turnovers prevented that from being so. It made for an exciting conclusion, but not an NFL Films conclusion per se. I don't necessarily blame Burrow for that first pick. I think sometimes crazy things just happen, and that was one of them. And the second pick, I thought there might have been like a tip or it hit a guy's hands or something. Either way, really bad luck and end of the Bengals season. I've really been going back and forth on how I feel about all of these. Can the team come back and be relevant in the playoff narratives? It kind of feels like we're doing that with five teams right now. It's a little
Right.
exhausting. Um, but a nice win for the Bills, shutting out a desperate Bengals team. Joe Burrow proving that he is a high watermark for this team. Just he makes them that much better, right? Um, and he did it without one of his top wideouts. T. Higgins exited this game twice for a concussion eval.
Actually,
But
he came back both times. He had a great game.
well, Joe Burrow was slinging it without T. Higgins for certain points in which he was in good time. And it was Joe Burrow's raw masculine strength that summoned T back
I
to the
see.
field, of course. And Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals, who has been out since week 6, now having core muscle surgery that is going to keep him out for the remainder of the season. You have to wonder if he was holding off to see whether there's a realistic chance that he could play meaningful football in January before making that decision. But now, obviously, heading into free agency after a tiff with the Bengals last offseason, he's getting his body right so he can go contribute. I assume he will not return to the Bengals, but you never know.
Yeah, probably not.
I,
And worth mentioning, T. Higgins experienced concussion symptoms again after the game, so he's back in the protocol, despite clearing it twice during the game. And if you look back at some of the film, you clearly see some times where he gets hit kind of hard, hits his head in the ground. But they did the due diligence and evaluations and let him go back.
I think it's worth having a conversation as a league about whether having protocol level contact twice in one game should remove you from that game.
Right.
Uh, I think that, especially now, this is the second week or maybe second time in 3 weeks where, we had JJ McCarthy with his concussion symptoms being reported post game. If there are certain symptoms that we don't have a clear view on during the game, if you go into protocol twice, odds are one of those likely minorly concussed you, if not more severe than minorly concussed you. Interesting conversation to be had. Um, Next pop game is not one I'm terribly familiar with the course of the game, but I am familiar with the implications of the result in a tightly contested NFC South game between the Saints and Buccaneers. It was not the Bucks, but the Saints who emerge victorious 24-20. Tyler Shuck beating out Baker Mayfield, who was lacking wide receiver Mike Evans and Jalen McMillan, both activated from IR, but neither active for the game. So, um, hugely shorthanded Bucks team getting some help from Bucky Irving, Bucky Irving's return the last few weeks, but not enough to be called a healthy team and not enough to overcome the Saints, who, when they feel like it, can sometimes turn in a really solid performance. And if you'd really like to see them live, come to Nashville December 28th. Get those tickets for cheap, baby. Um, yeah, Bucks season suddenly looking a lot shakier with the way the Panthers overcame the Rams before their bye week, putting them in a position to really compete with the Bucks near the top of this division. Dropping a game is not something they can safely afford. So, going to be watching this division closely down the stretch.
Yeah, I think I might have typed this wrong about Evans and McMillan. I think they were designated for their practice windows. I don't know if they've been
Okay,
activated yet.
fair
They're
enough.
just in that 21 day span. But that's on me. They also signed legendary outside linebacker JPP Jason Pierre-Paul to their practice squad. He hasn't played in a couple years. Uh, so I'm excited to see if he takes the field. He was always a fan favorite of mine on that latter Giants team that had some success in the late Eli years. Um, I'll tell you this about this game. It rained the whole time. It was so rainy in Tampa that it was messy. It was messy out there, which I think could have contributed to the Saints' victory. And yeah, I'm interested because the Panthers, of course, on bye, are right there in the standings with the Bucks coming down the stretch here. So interested to see what happens with these teams.
I was really high on the Bucks going into the season, but I think the Panthers sneaking into the playoffs would be the exact kind of spice we need. I was thinking about this today. I told you I thought maybe we would want to do like a special segment today. We'll probably save that for in a week or two, but it really struck me thinking about it that there is yeah, there are these teams who are upstarts and surprises, but they're like three or four of the same teams. And I feel like to have a truly fresh playoff experience, you either need a team that has been in the weeds for like 8 years, or you need
Mhm.
three or four of these less random teams to all make the playoffs. And we'll get to a game this week that I think is unfortunately going to make that not the case, maybe the most important game of the week in terms of solidifying a team's position in the playoff standings as likely out. But that is a story we'll get to another time. Any other thoughts on Saints Bucks?
No, my thoughts are gone, head empty. Let's move
Then take
on
us.
to the new champions of the NFC North through week 14, but not for the whole season. The Packers put up 28 on the Bears to beat them at home. Bears dropped from the 1 to the 7 seed. We'll talk about that later. Um, and the Packers reclaim the North as the divisional leaders. Honestly, this game was more of a defensive game, and I think the score led on, especially from the Packers end. What I noticed when I kind of tuned in and watched here and there is that Caleb Williams had a very ugly first half and like an okay second half to kind of make up for it. But his first half was like 3 for 10 or something like that. It was rough, and they were not getting a lot going. They were without Rome Odunze, I believe, in this game. Um, and DJ Moore did a whole lot of nothing. It was like, here you go, Olumide Zacchaeus and Colston Loveland and DeAndre Swift, basically. And then some, kind of random people here and there. But again, not a lot happening from them. Packers putting on a defensive clinic. I think their defense kind of seems to gel a little more every week and kind of really become a stout unit that I think a lot of people thought they were going to be following the Micah Parsons trade. And then on offense, I've said this before. I think when he's playing well and when the defense is doing its job, Jordan Love, I think, excels as kind of a game management type quarterback where he's not exactly, going to do the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, et cetera thing where he can kind of superhero your team to a win, but he's competent enough that he can keep the ship afloat and make good plays when needed and such. And I feel like that's what happened in this game. And the Packers just seem like the more poised team. And I will also mention Josh Jacobs looked pretty good. I think he's fully healthy now, coming back on that injury he sustained a couple weeks ago. And Christian Watson again had a pair of insane touchdowns. As he's wont to do when healthy. I think he had two in this game that were both like, oh, they just kind of threw it up to him in the end zone, and yep, he came down with it. Okay. Um, Maybe one of them he ran in from outside the end zone, but he has been good for them since coming back and finally being healthy and finally emerged as I think a primary target for a team that has lacked one since Devontae Adams left, basically.
Yeah, that might almost be for me the biggest Packers takeaway. Yeah, the offense or defense looks solid, but Watson gave a legitimate element of explosion. to an offense that's historically been more efficient than electric. And I think that's a nice dimension for them. Bears had a really nice second half. Late pick by Caleb Williams to seal it was just not a very well thrown ball. I'm not going to pretend his guy was super open. He definitely would have had to put it in the perfect spot to complete that play, but needless to say, just wasn't able to deliver on what was nonetheless a very fun game. And notably, this one was in Lambeau, so it feels like when the Bears host, the result could be different. It was close enough as a game, I thought. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a really fun one. Any other takeaways?
Somehow I hope both of these teams lose all of their remaining games, despite the fact that they play each other again.
Yeah, as a Lions fan, I think we're rooting for the Bears to lose most feasibly, but if they would like to tie and then mutually agree that the Packers don't want a second tie, and so they'll just both take the loss to avoid that, I'm okay with that as
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
Here's something that 31 franchises can get behind. Ding dong. The witch may finally be dead, or at least taking a nap for the remainder of 2025 and early 2026 as Texans roll into Arrowhead. Houston strong 20-10 over the Kansas City Chiefs. The Texans went from also ran to where do we begin? This defense is swarming, and it gave Patrick Mahomes zero breaks. Not helpful for them was the fact that Wanya Morris, the offensive tackle for the Chiefs, exited with a knee injury. He will be out for the season. Cornerback Trent McDuffie also exited for the Chiefs. This loss means that for the first time since 2015, that is a decade, the Chiefs will not win the AFC West. That is unbelievable consistency that I don't even know if it's been fully matched in the Patriots era of just that much consistency, like the constancy of that,
Yeah.
especially as the Bills came around. The Patriots had their lull years. I would need to look up that record, but it's looking like that team, maybe the Broncos, although we'll get to in this next game another team vying for that spot. And I think the teams that strike fear are the teams that don't mess up. They're the teams that are really polished. Even if a play goes wrong, everybody's in the right spot, blocking hard. If the ball hits the hand, it's caught. This game was the direct bleeding inverse of that game for the Chiefs. If Mahomes got it to his man, the man would not give it back by holding on to the ball. Travis Kelce tipped pick late in this game, sealed it. If I'm not mistaken, that's what my recollection tells me, and I believe it. But in general, just balls hitting guys' hands and then hitting the turf. Mahomes just looking powerless as his receivers can't do anything with the opportunities he's trying to give them, and it just made the Chiefs look weak. And now, even if they win out, they're likely on the outside looking in of a playoff picture in the AFC that is radically altered by the outcomes in this week's games, especially this game in particular.
Yeah, so back to that division streak. I looked up the Patriots because I was just curious. 2009 to 2019, they had 11 consecutive seasons. So they had one more season than the Chiefs in their current streak. Unless this includes 2015, then I guess it's tied. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, they wouldn't have 2025 as the idea, right?
Oh,
So
you're so right. So right. So they would have a year over the Chiefs there, and then I looked up longest streaks, and that is the longest streak, the one I happened to come across. I just looked up Patriot or division titles in the AFC, and then found that, and then I looked up longest streak, and it was like, oh, it is that one that I just looked at.
nice.
Yeah. Takeaways from the game now. The Texans are brutal on defense, man. They were smacking guys. They were just hammering them on the defensive side of the ball. A couple of big hits in this game. I remember, I don't remember who it was. It was either like Jalen Petrie or Kamari Laster. Chiefs receiver, I think it was Tyquan Thornton, caught a ball that he didn't get contacted on and kind of was on the ground still. And the Texans defender just stood over him like this and didn't touch him. And he was like waiting for him to roll so he could try to punch the ball out and get a turnover. So he was just standing over him like he was about to punch him. That was really silly. And then yeah, there are a couple of big hits in this game. The tipped pick was crazy from Travis Kelce. He just kind of dropped it. He just kind of delivered it to the defender behind him. Um,
Volleyball, yeah, tough.
it, it was fun. But I am happy with the result of this game. I know you're happy, and like you said, there's probably 31 franchises that are happy. And now the Chiefs are a record in which I'll never say because I hate the internet and everything that it stands for.
Um, Speaking of Texans defense, the Bears picked off Jordan Love in the first half of their game. Who had the pick?
Speaking of Texans defense, is what you started
Uh,
this question with.
yep. I
CJ
want to
Gardner
say
Johnson.
yes. Yes.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe it was the first half. CJ Gardner Johnson pulled one down. I wanted to ask you during Packers Bears and I forgot. And I was like, oh, well, he was a Texan this year. Um,
He was mini teams this year.
yeah.
Um,
It was the Ravens that he was like their kind of their
yeah.
wing. That's hilarious. But every time I see him now, I'm amused. I have my when he was with the Lions, he wanted to start doing the blue ski
Yes.
mask. And I
Yes.
have my ski mask somewhere around here that my dad got me that is not Lions colored, but I respect the effort.
Yeah.
And
You gotta
I
wear it
think
at some point.
that would be great. Maybe the next week he has a turnover, I'll bust it out. I don't think it's too far from where I'm sitting. So
Excellent.
Uh, Monday Night Football is next. We are texting about this game as it was happening. Take us
hmm
through the cross-conference matchup of the century. Nah.
No. Uh, while in the pop game, I wouldn't necessarily say it popped in my brain, but it was an overtime, so it automatically qualifies for this section. Chargers take the victory 22 to the Eagles 19 at home in LA. Worth mentioning, Eagles are missing defensive tackle Jalen Carter. He got surgery on both of his shoulders last week. That sounds painful and like a lot to recover from. I imagine he will be ready come playoff time. Um, Chargers running back Amari Hampton, been out since week 5 after he fractured his ankle, came back and played in this game. Didn't look 100%, I would say. They still used a little bit of Kamani Vidal. I can't remember. There's one way to say that, and one of those ways is wrong, and I can never remember which one is which. Um, and then Charger safety Derwin James also exited with a head injury, but came back. Offensive tackle Trey Pipkins left with an ankle injury, and that was a big story for me. Is the Chargers not being able to really pass the ball well at all because their offensive line already missing Rashawn Slater for the season. We talked about that. Missing Joe Alt for the season. We talked about that. They have another offensive tackle go down in this game. They're just getting bum rushed out there most of the time by the Eagles' defensive line. And Lad McConkey, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston, Aranda Gatz in the second, none of them had great lines if you look at the stats. Justin Herbert, of course, playing with that fractured hand, not his throwing hand, but his other hand. Just couldn't get a lot of plays developed. There was a lot of dumps, a lot of dump offs to the running backs. There was a lot of running plays. I think another reason Amari Hampton didn't play that well in this game, from my understanding, is that he was not ready to pass block coming back into this as he should have been. That's why they kept bringing other guys in too, because they desperately needed the help. That being said, they still pull out a victory because the Eagles' offense was even worse. Specifically, Jalen Hurts, 5 turnovers in this
Ooh.
game, two of which were on the same possession, which is awesome. He threw an interception, defenders returning it. Defensive tackle, I think his last name is Hands, which is hilarious because he
Deshaun
fumbled the
Hand,
ball. Yeah,
former
he
Lions
fumbled
legend
the
Deshaun Hand.
ball. He fumbled the return. And then Jalen Hurts picks it up and fumbles it back to the Chargers. So he threw an interception and also fumbled the ball in the same play. I believe, as far as the NFL has covered those fumbles and interceptions as stats, that is the first time that somebody has fumbled and thrown an interception, lost a fumble, I should say, and thrown an interception in the same play, dating back to like 78 or something like that when they started recording those. Um, Absolutely insane play. He threw 3 additional picks in this game, one of which was game sealing down the stretch, a kind of a tipped inbound or from defender falling out of bounds, tipped it inbound to another defender, and that is what sealed the deal for the Eagles in overtime. Cameron Dicker really carried the Chargers here. They scored 1 touchdown, so a bunch of field goals from him, including the long one in overtime, to give them the victory in a day where, again, the Eagles' offense was just so play. But it was mostly Jalen Hurts this time, and not the other guys. I mean, Saquon didn't look great. He had a fake tush push run for like 50 yards, which definitely boosted his stat line. But other than that, it was relatively pedestrian. AJ Brown did have another good week after, um, he was slow to start the season, and I guess I should say for more than half the season. We're in week 14 now. But yeah, Just a lackluster offense on both sides, really, and turnovers that led the Chargers to a victory here.
Yeah, this was a fumble fest. Kind of hard to watch just in terms of, neither team was winning. Both teams were losing forward. And Hurts, yeah, overthrowing guys. I mean, he looked terrible. Do you know how many fantasy points he had in our PPR league? Would you like to guess?
I think I know. I want to say it's like point 0.4.
It is point 0.4.
Yeah.
That's less than one.
Despite
Uh,
completing 200 worth of passing yards.
yeah,
Yeah.
a
The
lot of
turnovers
yards,
are
but
crazy.
that many turnovers really do cook you. And yeah, I really love Vidal. Watching this game, it just felt like he was kind of doing a little bit of everything pretty well. Popped off for a nice 60 yard play, counted as a reception, but I can't remember if he was actually past the line of scrimmage or not.
Mm.
Yeah, Dicker's elite, and he is the Chargers Man of the Year nominee or Man of the Year winner. Beg pardon. So, yeah, the Eagles looked rough in this one, and definitely the Chargers got helped by the Eagles cardinaling away a turnover recovery thing. Um, and yeah, just a wacky game.
For
But at
sure.
least it had that auto overtime pop qualification, unlike these games, which were all either of no consequence or not very fun to watch. Certainly, the second game we'll talk about of consequence. This first one, though, was tied at halftime, 6-6. Kirk Cousins, the former Flame of Minnesota and Washington alike, thrust back into the spotlight after getting the hook for Michael Penix early in the season for Atlanta. He had them
Against
battling,
Sam Darnold, the former Flame of Minnesota. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, former Viking
Because
Bull,
that's what you
absolutely.
said of Kirk Cousins. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, no, no. I was just giving a romantic light to Kirk, who
Of
managed to
course.
battle with his Falcons against the vaunted Seahawks to a 6-6 draw at halftime. Could this game be any more tense? Certainly not in reality. Seahawks 37, Falcons 9. This game sprinted away from Atlanta. Um, when you see a score like that at half, and you see that one of the teams involved in that score is the Falcons have not played the kind of football where you trust them to be an upset team. If that was Cleveland, you'd go, well, they beat the Packers. It's the Falcons. It's the Kirk
They
Cousins
did
Falcons.
they did beat the Bills. That did happen this season.
Yeah, that was in the Penix era. We're now post Penix.
True.
And yeah, this is I really didn't have too many eyes on this game. It was one that I was
Nope.
really eager and curious about, and then it just became a absolute blowout in favor of the favored team. So
Yeah, I got nothing for you here. Seahawks continue to look good. Falcons falling apart down the stretch. Um, Still no Drake London. He still may not be a Drake London this week when they play the Bucks on Thursday. No offensive weapons. Defense is kind of falling. Everything's falling apart over there in Atlanta. We're all falling apart, and the Seahawks are looking so good, which makes me happy for my preseason prediction. And I feel like I've said that 4 weeks in a row, and I'll keep saying it.
um yeah, let's jump ahead. Take us through this next
Please,
game, which may have had
please.
some of the most this game I've been teasing it, maybe the most consequential of the week in terms of the future of one of the teams
Yeah,
involved. And while I've been teasing it with some excitement, it's really unfortunate news that I'm
for
passing on to
sure.
Damon.
Yeah, so the game we're talking about, the game we've been alluding to, you may have guessed a Jaguars 36 victory over the Colts at home, who only had 19. Travarius Ward, concussion protocol for the third time this season. That's worth noting. Opposite Sauce, they obviously need him in that defensive front. But of course, the most unfortunate news of this week, I think, came when quarterback Daniel Jones for the Colts exited on a non-contact injury that did result in a torn Achilles. He will be done for the season, probably for the beginning of next year, I would imagine. These are usually season-long injuries. This is so late in the season that I worry it will carry into training camp and such. Also worth mentioning, Daniel Jones, this is a 1 year deal. So this is going to change his free agency for sure. I imagine the Colts, up until this point, had planned to bring him back as the starter next year. How it changes his contract situation and all that for how well he performed is to be determined. Also worth mentioning before I dive into what's next for the Colts QB room. Um, he had a fractured fibula that he was playing through. It was the opposite leg of his torn Achilles. But there has been a little bit of speculation of was he favoring the leg in which he tore the Achilles a lot because the fibula fracture on the other leg? Should he have been playing through? The Colts trying to make the playoffs. And if you watch this game, you'll notice that Riley Leonard came in to end up taking the game over for them. The only quarterback left on their active roster at the time, Brett Rippon on the practice squad. So yeah, maybe Daniel Jones did need to play because they didn't really have a lot of other options. Anthony Richardson still on IR. I should apologize. I read more into the Anthony Richardson thing because I mentioned how he fractured his eye during doing a like stretch with like a band, and it was like
Mhm.
oh, it was. I think I was like oh, it's like a silly thing. Actually, it wasn't a silly thing. He was doing it, and the metal buckle broke, and the metal buckle hit him in the eye.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay,
so
yeah.
it's like way worse than like what I thought it was, and that's obviously totally not his fault. But he's still on IR. He like can't see, like he is going through a lot. Um, so obviously he is not able to suit up. What's next? I don't know, Jared. What should the Colts do? What do you think they should do for their quarterback situation, trying to make the playoffs here down the stretch?
Um, you think about it, right? And you probably want a guy who you could plug in play, someone
Mm,
who I think you just want a lot of knowledge, right? Because at this point, you're probably not going to find the most physically gifted guy. You think
mhm,
Daniel Jones might still be your future, so just get someone with a lot of wisdom to offer, someone who's maybe seasoned, and has
mm.
seen it all. Um, I don't know. Maybe Colt McCoy, is he still playing age? I don't know. I can't imagine there are too many guys who
Texas
fit my
legend.
description. What do you think, Damon?
Well, here's what the Colts thought, Jared. The Colts thought, hey, Phillip Rivers, remember when you played for us 5 years ago? Can we dust you off and get you in here? 44 years old, this guy is, and current grandfather. Do you know how many kids Phillip Rivers has?
It's upwards of 13, correct?
11, I believe, is the
Oh, I'm sorry,
number.
double digits. I knew it
It's
was
an
a lot.
absurd amount. And at least one of whom has a child as well. So he is a grandfather. Last played in 2020. I did not realize it had already been 5 seasons.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
that's crazy because I'm like, whoa, that was a long time ago. I obviously remember watching him play it, mostly for the Chargers and then at the Colts at the end there. But a couple interesting things here for this Philip Rivers signing. They basically, what I understood from reading a bunch about this, they sent a camera to his house and they said, "Can you film a video of you just like kind of doing the quarterback stuff we need?" And he did, and they said, "That's good enough for me. Let's go
Crazy.
ahead and bring you on the roster." Um, and he was on this roster 5 years ago. Um, Apparently, he has been running the Colts playbook, something very similar to the Colts playbook, at least, for his son's high school team this football season, because he's very familiar with head coach Shane Steichen, an offensive coordinator. Because at least for the head coach Steichen, they spent a lot of time together for the Chargers, so they can know each other there. They know the system there. They apparently talked about it. They texted about it. It was already something that existed, and they're just kind of bridge the gap here. Do you know what the offensive coordinator of the Colts name is? It's insane, by the way.
I am sitting here thinking.
Yes, he is sitting here
This is an
thinking.
audio medium. I am thinking about it.
He's thinking about it. While he's thinking about it, let me
I
give you
couldn't tell you.
this.
I literally have no chance, so you can just
Hey,
tell me.
it's Jim Bob Cooter. So,
Wait!
uh,
I should have known that. Former Lions offensive coordinator Jim Bob Cooter.
insane name. Um, Philip Rivers is older than his head coach and his offensive coordinator, which is hilarious. He will be the fifth quarterback in NFL history to start at age 44 or older. Jared, who are the other four quarterbacks that fit that bill?
I saw this question when I scrolled down and I read this list today. By the way, Jim Bob Cooter, fun fact, I had a teacher in high school who played against Jim Bob Cooter in high school ball.
Crazy.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady. Ding, ding, ding. Correct.
The Raj.
The
Aaron Rodgers.
Raj. Aaron
Aaron
Rodgers is not
Rodgers.
44 yet.
Darn. Vinny Testaverde.
Vinny Testaverde, Jets legend, I think, from my childhood recollection of watching Invincible, maybe.
Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie.
Not Doug Flutie.
I know one of them, and then there's gonna be another one that's like Tommy Two Shoes from.
There's one of them that I definitely know that you definitely know, and there's one of them that I'm like I've never heard of that name in my life. So
Is the one you never heard of Steve DeBerg?
correct.
Is the other one Warren Moon or something like
The other
that?
one is Warren Moon. Yes,
I read this list earlier
legend.
today. Let's go. Glad I retained it.
Let's go. Who is Steve DeBerg? I couldn't tell you what team
Um,
that guy played for.
Steve DeBerg, show me 1998 Seahawks.
He sounds like a 49er. I don't know why. Maybe it's Steve Young is why, but obviously,
Come on.
ding, 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 ding,
Not
ding.
even not even close. I will actually say to his credit, it looks like he was never the guy for a team just in terms of how much he bounced around.
Mm,
But he played from 1977 to 1998, which didn't fully process
wow.
until I just read that. That's 21 years.
Yeah, that's huge.
Um,
Shout out Steve DeBerg.
yeah, big
Unless
ups
you're a
for
terrible
Steve.
person. Um,
Yeah. Let me see if there's a personal life section of.
sure.
Oh,
While you're
okay.
looking at that, do you
It's
have
one
any idea when the
line.
last
He's good.
time? Do you know when the last time the Colts made the playoffs was?
2020, because it was when Phillip Rivers was with the team, right?
Correct. Back in
Thanks,
2020
Athletic
with
Football
Phillip
Show.
Rivers.
Appreciate you.
Um, and then, yeah,
Crazy.
last thing I'll mention here, he was a Hall of Fame semifinalist for modern era players. Obviously, if he suits up, he's going to get his name taken off that list because you have to have been retired for 5 seasons. This was his fifth season. He comes back, he's going to have to wait 5 additional seasons before he can be nominated again.
Um, there is the Schadenfreude fan in me that wants to have like, kind of like the NBA has had the Kings and now has the Mavericks of just like, what are you doing kind of team. It's
Yeah,
unfortunate that it's the result of an injury, and I'm not celebrating injury. I think it's a terrible thing.
for sure.
But Daniel Jones represented a plan for the Colts at quarterback. And now with this injury, a plan that was already tenuous because it depended on Daniel Jones staying at the level he's been, is now almost entirely out the window. And that's after they put all of their eggs into this season's basket. Really tenuous. They remind me a little bit of the Vikings in the sense that they are a really solid team that is one quarterback away and does not have the resources to find that quarterback if Daniel Jones isn't him. So, perfect transition by me because that's the next team to talk about is the Vikings. And this is the most bizarre result I've seen in a little while. Vikings 31, Commanders 0. Jaden Daniels and Marcus Mariota combined to do absolutely nothing against JJ McCarthy and the Vikings, who from nowhere, um, just I mean they hung 31 points. The two big talking points coming out of this, short-term injury to Jaden Daniels' elbow. Um, they're pretty confident it's not long term, and then unfortunately, Commanders tight end Zach Ertz exited with a torn ACL. He will have surgery to end his season and at his age, potentially his career. Definitely a storied player who's been part of the fabric of our time watching the NFL in the 2010s. Legendary tight end for the Eagles and little known Lions fact signed to our practice squad. It was on the practice squad during the Niners NFC Championship game and would join the roster for the Super Bowl had we advanced.
Hmm.
So, bit of extra Zach Ertz lore there, but a real shame. Reminds you of Austin Eckler. Um, you hate to see two great veterans on the Commanders who may see their career cut short by injury.
Yeah, and he was clearly very, very emotional on the car on the way out. And the throw, I can't remember if it was Daniels or Mariota. By the way, I think they said Daniels would have been good to come back, but they were like, yeah, we don't really see him playing.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
Um,
Yep.
so they kept him out. But the throw was a hospital ball. It was. a little high. Ertz goes up for it. Vikings defender, I don't remember who it was. Um, just kind of bends down in front of him. So he just kind of like runs into him, and that's when the tear happens on that bad throw there, and the incomplete pass. So obviously things like this can happen on any play. A lot of them are non-contact, so it's not like I'm blaming anybody, but obviously you don't want to put your receiver in a position like that. Very tough. And two wasted teams and two wasted seasons here in this game.
Yeah, Lions still have the Vikings coming up, so I'm watching that. But any win for the Vikings is needed to give them some hope and some spark here. In what has been, yeah, a lost season for a team that I think had justifiably high hopes. The Commanders were a surprise team last year, so this is definitely a setback year for them. But the Vikings have been consistently competitive for the last 4 or 5 years, and so to suddenly take the step back they have this season, I'm sure has been difficult for fans, difficult for the franchise. Um, but I'm gonna give you the floor for this next game, this divisional showdown here. We've got three divisional showdowns to close it out.
Please, I will take Dolphins having 34 on the Jets at 10. Before I get to the actual game, I did want to shout out Jets corner Chris Boyd, fully recovered from his injury, surprised his teammates at the practice facility to attend and also break down the special teams meeting because he is mostly a special teams player. We talked about this 3 weeks ago. He was shot in the abdomen in the evening and went to the hospital, was in critical condition, then stable condition. Now this is the update. Don't know if he'll suit up anytime soon necessarily, but he is out of the hospital. That's good. That's grand. I actually read pretty much right before we started recording, they just arrested a 20-year-old in that is suspected of doing the shooting. So um, perhaps some justice there. And for the actual game, Dolphins running back Devon Achane exited with a rib injury, had this really nice 29-yard run, had a great first half for the Dolphins. And he fell onto the ball as he was going down, which kind of caused him some rib pain. And they were kind of up early at this point. No Tyrod Taylor. I can't even remember who the quarterback was. The name escapes me. Cook? Oh, no, I don't know. Anyways, they were crushing the Jets, so they didn't bring him back in. He should be good to go for the upcoming week. A lot of Jalen Wright in the second half, which was nice to see. I think fourth round draft pick, running back last year for them that hadn't played a ton. So he had a nice second half. The Jets wore their rivalry uniforms. I think they're like black and gray and kind of gross. Um, I didn't love them. I'll say that.
Yeah, Gotham City unis, I think they're called.
That's terrible. It's
Yeah.
just terrible.
Um, yeah, I clicked on an article, I got distracted, called Steelers Mike Tomlin had the most hysterical reaction to Colts Phillip Rivers news. And for those of you eager to click on this link, I think hyperbole won the day. This was not the most hysterical.
Sure.
Amusing, I'll give it. Hysterical, I don't think it rose to that level, unfortunately.
Fair, fair.
Um, this has been an absolute Dolphins renaissance, and I'm kind of here for it. We had buried Mike
They're
McDaniel,
alive.
your famous bit. Will he be fired before, during, or after the game?
I
Uh,
love that bit.
it looks like he might not even be fired after the season. I
They're
think he's
still at less than 1%, but sure, let's say that they have a chance, I guess.
I think if the Dolphins made the playoffs, it would be like of all the comeback stories, can the Ravens, can the Bengals, yada yada yap yap yap. I want it to be the Dolphins, baby.
I would agree
Finish what you started.
if I didn't want Mike McDaniel to get fired so badly. I would
Um,
agree with you.
you want him to get fired? Why? Do you not like him?
Yeah, it just rubs me the wrong way. I
Um,
shouldn't want anyone to get fired. I guess I should. That's not ethical of me. I apologize. I let my unethicalness take over.
yeah.
Disaster.
Um, that's okay. Let's talk about game that doesn't make me feel ethical, unethical, or really much in between. Broncos 24 at Raiders 17. Geno
Correct.
Smith left this game with a right hand injury, but returned to continue quarterbacking for the Raiders. Um, Fun fact about the Raiders, I looked up the points per game this season.
Mm.
Guess who the Titans just jumped ahead of? Raider
I can't
Nation,
believe the
baby.
Raiders are at 13.6 points per game. Wow.
Actually, now at 15.1, the Titans jumped
Oh.
all the way up to 15.5.
I see.
Yeah, so um, good for them.
While this is a one-score result, it certainly didn't feel that way. It was a yuck game.
Yeah. Do you want to guess the lowest current playoff team on the points per game standings? Sounds fun.
Oh,
It's
like in
either
the
that or
top
talk
seven
about
right
Broncos
now?
Raiders. And right now, I am much more educated on this trivia question.
Like the teams that are in the top seven right now?
Yeah, let me just double check and make sure I've got the right team. Okay. Yep. Um, the team that is in the top seven of either conference that
Okay.
has the least points per game.
My guess is easy, I think. I think
Okay.
it's the Steelers. And if it's not, I'll be sad. My second guess was going to be the Texans, but I don't feel confident about that.
The Steelers are in the top half of the league,
They're only in the
tied.
top half.
They're in the top
Oh.
half. The lowest is indeed Houston. Can you
Yes.
guess the next lowest? Because I think it will somewhat surprise.
Okay. Let's take a gander here. Ding 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 ding. Um, the Eagles?
Nicely done. It is the Eagles. Houston number
Let's
20,
go.
Philadelphia number 19 at 21.8 and 22.2 points respectively. I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was quite that difficult right now for the Eagles. So all of that to say, Broncos keep winning. They're in the driver's seat for the AFC West. Chargers not fully disappearing, but the Broncos not only leading their division, but now leading the conference.
And the Rams are leading the NFC after a demolition of the Cardinals, 45 to 17. They were great all the way around. Kyron looked great. Blake Corum, hello, he looked pretty good. Puka looked good. They looked good all around. And you know who else looked good? My goat, Michael Wilson, who I played in both of my fantasy leagues and had like 15 catches for an absurd amount of yards and two touchdowns and had 37 fantasy points or something insane. Um, because he does that when Marvin Harrison doesn't play. I don't know why, but that's what happens. And he's done it three times this season, and I won't be playing him this week because they play the Texans, and that defense is scary.
Um, yeah, I don't have much to say about this game, and the one thing I did say, I think I just forgot on accident. So,
Excellent.
uh, oh, I actually don't know if we mentioned this last week, so just in case Kyler Murray will not return this season, I think
Correct.
they made that formal announcement. And I don't know if we got to that, so I wanted to make sure we mention it. Now, let's roll briefly through our playoff picture to give some context for what matters in the week of football ahead. Big one coming up every week is a big week in the NFL when you're in December. And Damon, do you want to take us? How do you want to go do this? Conference by conference? Do you want to go one seed? What's the approach?
Let's do conference by conference.
Sure.
Which conference would you like me to take, Jared?
Um, why don't you take the NFC and I'll do the AFC?
Excellent. In the NFC, currently at the one seed, we have a new team. It was the Bears last week. It is now the Rams. They are 10 and 3. They stand not alone with that record, but alone at the one seed. Second seed right now is going to be the Packers 9-3 and 1. I mentioned they took over the division from the Bears after beating them. That tie is going to give them the edge record-wise. Eagles are the third seed at 8 and 5, leading the NFC East, and then the Buccaneers are the fourth seed at 7 and 6, leading the NFC South. Barely. We'll talk about the teams in contention here in a sec. And of course, if you somehow aren't familiar, the top four division people, that is how the teams work. That's how they lead. Um, so following the division leaders, fifth seed Seahawks 10 and 3. They're tied with the Rams record wise for the second best record, or sorry, for the best record in the NFC, but they're not winning the division, therefore they are down at the fifth seed. Niners also in the NFC West, they're at 9 and 4 at the sixth seed. And the Bears fall all the way from the first seed to the seventh seed in the NFC North at 9-4 after their loss to the Packers. Teams that have a realistic chance, I would say, to still make the playoffs in some capacity. Outside looking in, the Lions are at the 8th seed at 8-5. A big game against the Rams coming up this week that you alluded to. And then the Panthers are tied with the Bucks. They are also 7-6 in that NFC South. So while the record is not that impressive, neither is the Bucks. So could be either's team division down the stretch. For our purposes, I think the 6-1 Cowboys and Vikings are likely cooked, though not technically eliminated from playoff contention. Falcons, Cardinals, Saints, Commanders, and Giants are all officially eliminated from contention.
Yeah. Only comments I really have, mileage may vary on whether you trust the percentage of different models, the probability percentages of different models. I think
Sure.
these things are very subject to change. But it is interesting to remark that if you add the Buccaneers and Panthers together, it's exactly 100%. So it's
Yeah.
basically what's the percent chance they'll win the division because they are 2 games back from the wild card. So
Right.
it is truly NFC South or bust. Yeah, this was definitely a big week to kind of solidify that the Cowboys are largely out of contention. Um I'll hop over and take the AFC. Leading the AFC
Please.
West and the AFC at large is the Broncos at 11-2, with the same record. Leading the AFC East is the 11-2 Patriots. The Jaguars at 9-4 lead the AFC South. It's the third seed, and the fourth seed Steelers are 7-6, just like the Buccaneers. In the NFC, jumping 5 spots in playoff probability by knocking off the previously division leading Ravens. Meanwhile, in the wild card, the 9-4 Chargers, 2 games back from the Broncos, hold down the fifth seed. The Bills also at 9-4, holding down the sixth seed, and the Texans at 8-5, holding down the seventh seed. The major contenders still with a shot are the 8-5 Colts, who fell out of the wild card and are now the eighth overall. And the Ravens fall 5 spots. They are 6-7 with a 33% chance of making the playoffs. I just want to call out Steelers and Ravens. You add that up, you get about 100%. Just like you did over there with the Bucks and the Panthers. So funny to see that parallel in play. And interesting also to note that the Chargers, despite being the 5 seed, have a lower playoff probability than the Bills and Texans, who are also in the wild card. So I'm sure there's some tiebreaker hoo-ha going on there that's making that the case, but interesting to observe.
Yeah. Um, so the Chiefs, Dolphins, Bengals technically not eliminated, but basically be a miracle for any of them to make it. Jets, Browns, Raiders, Titans are all officially out. Do you think the Jaguars are going to win the AFC South?
I need to look at their schedule to answer that affirmatively. I think the Texans are the best team in the AFC South. And I think if the Jaguars and Texans play again or play twice, I think the Texans win.
Yeah.
I'm working on
I
it.
think I think they have already played twice.
Yep.
But I'll tell
Um,
you what, the Texans play the Cardinals, Raiders, Chargers. That's probably their hardest matchup, and now QB less Phillip Rivers led Colts. So their schedule down the stretch is definitely doable.
yeah. Jaguars go to Denver to play the Broncos, and if the Texans win out and the Jags drop that game, there'll be a tie record, and then it'll go to tiebreaker. So, they split their series. Texans 1-1, Jaguars 1-1. I will remind you, the Texans won that insane last minute 1 point super comeback game that turned into a 7 point comeback with the scoop and score to end the contest. So, that could be really consequential, but yeah, I'll put money on the Texans because I think they're the better team. But the Jaguars might just hang around despite me, and we'll see.
For sure.
Uh, Either way, we're excited. I don't know if you are, but I assume you are, and I certainly am because it's about time for the rubber to hit the road. You put a really interesting stat in here that there are only 23 teams still in contention to make the playoffs with 4 weeks to go, which is the lowest number since 2005.
Yes, teams that are so that's 7 teams that are official, or I'm sorry, there's 32 teams. I keep reading that. 9 teams that are officially eliminated, and then a couple more that are like, yeah, they're done. But I guess that means there's more tanking teams than normal, or there's more teams that are way at the top than normal. What does that mean? I don't really know. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, for a season that feels like there's a lot of parity at the top, it's because all those teams at the top have a lot of wins, and I suppose that comes at the expense of losses. And if we look at the eliminated teams, you mentioned tanking. I would say the only realistic tanking teams, no one, I don't know if anyone truly tanks in the NFL. You could make the case that the Saints were trying to tank, and you could make the case that the Browns maybe were trying to tank, but they had Joe Flacco. I mean, like truly, maybe the Jets knew they were going to have a bad year. I would argue all seven of the other eliminated teams, the Giants, Commanders, Cardinals, Falcons, um, Titans, and Raiders, were all going to make a legitimate like effort this
Yeah.
season, and instead are in the cellar of their respective. I
Yeah, we
mean, a
have a
lot of
couple of
2 and 3
just
win
very
teams. Well,
bad teams, very lost season injury, that kind
for
of stuff
sure,
too.
for sure. Yeah, just I don't think there have been a lot of years with that many teams that have only 2 or 3 wins. So, um, either way, I think it's time we move on and get our wheel teams of the week.
Is that so, Jared? Is that
Yes,
so?
and
We only have four teams remaining. We're actually we miscalculated. We're gonna have two bye weeks. I don't know how we didn't see this earlier. I think we said one bye week. We forget there's 18 seasons in the NFL, not 17
oh, 18
anymore.
weeks. Yeah, you're right.
Um, so
Maybe
yeah, we're
maybe
gonna,
what we'll do then, because I'm gonna be traveling for a couple of them, is we can either finish it up before the travel or we can do like our last week after. I don't know. We'll see. But
we will see. Yes, maybe we should have taken a bye at like week 9, but here we are. We're too far gone. So let's go ahead and spin. Who's first on the docket here? I already forgot. You
I
are.
did my game first this week, so I think weirdly that means I spin
No, I think you are
second.
also first because one week really messed it up because you made me give my game first when I wasn't supposed to.
That was my bad.
And that totally flipped our mojo off. But here you go. You will be granted the Denver Broncos and their matchup against the aforementioned Jaguars. I believe you said earlier. I lied. They play the Packers. They play the Jaguars next week.
Oh,
Uh,
great game.
Great game for you. Tell us what your you have anything on this before we spin for me?
Um, sure. I think if there's anything that jumps out to me about this game for both teams is I think with the Chargers 2 games back in the AFC West, I think a win here probably puts that pretty comfortably out of reach. Um, and for the Packers who are playing the Bears again in 2 weeks, any win to keep them separated from the Bears and forcing the Bears to try to tie for the division lead is critical here. That said, because it's jumping across conference, not as important for conference standings or anything, but I think this is going to be a really nice matchup for either the Packers to say, "Hey, we figured it out," or the Broncos to say, "Hey, we're not just skating by mediocre teams." So good prove it game, I think.
This might be the game of the week that you got here for the wheel.
It's
Two
up there.
teams very competitive in their respective conferences. So the wheel of doom, I suppose, is perhaps gone. Maybe we finally broke past the curse after spinning 28 of the 32 teams. That being said, I get to watch the New York Giants play the Commanders
Whew.
for this divisional game that basically won't matter at all. The fun part about this game, though, is that in our fantasy playoff matchup, I have Jackson Dart and Jaden Daniels, and I have to choose who I want to roll out there as
Wow.
they play each other. So, I think talent would tell you that when you think back to Jaden's last season, but that he's the choice. But with all the injuries this season, who knows? So that's the fun thing for me as I watch Giants Commanders is did I make the mistake at
Yeah.
plugging in whatever quarterback I decided to go with against you in our fantasy playoffs? And that leaves the Steelers and Vikings as our last two teams to cover the NFC North and AFC North. And we'll get to that another time.
Um, Fun thing about that is it guarantees one of us will be watching the Lions next week. I believe the Steelers are the Lions' next opponent, and if not, it would be the Vikings. So, one of us will get to watch the
Excellent.
Lions, and one of us will get to watch the Vikings
And one
play
of us will
somebody.
watch the Lions anyways.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll have eyes on those games. Don't worry.
Yeah.
No, I will mention, by the way, fantasy implications for my game. I will be watching RJ Harvey up against the Packers in this game.
Mm,
So,
true, true,
um,
true.
Damon, do you
That's
want to
me.
take first pick on other games of interest?
Oh goodness. I'll take this, the first one that caught my eye. Chargers at Chiefs, if they can just really put the nail in the
Ooh.
coffin. If they can call the Chiefs season done for real, that would be cool. And the Chargers, of course, you mentioned at the 5 seed right now, but according to next gen stats, a lower playoff actual percentage than the Bills and Texans, who are at the 6 and 7 seed respectively. So they need all the wins they can to kind of solidify themselves, especially when the Broncos seem to be leading the pack in that division. Um, and there are other competitive wildcard teams. And I think despite the Chiefs' lack of success on offense with that offensive line super banged up at this point in the year, um, they're never a team you can just write off and say this is going to be a game that we can coast through. So they have to kind of come stamp their foot of approval into the playoffs and, like I said, put the nail in the coffin for the Chiefs.
Yeah, certainly not a pushover, especially being a division matchup, but a consequential one. Um, Man, there are a lot of games that we're now at the point where half of these games aren't of terrible consequence, or only one
Sure.
team is really like fighting hard here. So just for the sake of it, I'll take Ravens Bengals. I think the Bengals would love to spoil the Ravens' chances, and if they manage to drag the Ravens down, that gives the Steelers all the more hope that they can lock this division up. So I am excited to see Joe Burrow, who will likely be absolutely pissed at the way the last game ended on multiple turnovers from him. Really motivated to play a better game against a team that I'm sure he loathes in the division rival Ravens. Meanwhile, Ravens one game back straight up on the Steelers, who also now temporarily hold the head-to-head tiebreaker. So if you can't start to put games back up on the Steelers, you might at best be playing to tie them in record. And so this game is big time. This is a big time game, and I think it'll be a highly motivated game for both teams. And it was a electric matchup last year. I know Thanksgiving's game wasn't quite as exciting. Maybe we'll get a barn burner, just like times of yore.
Yeah. I will jump to Bills and Patriots. Division matchup, of course, which is big. And the Patriots have been leading the way for a long time in this division since beating the Bills way, way earlier on this season. That being said, it's only 2 games apart, and if the Bills can pull off, I guess, the upset now at this point in the season against the Patriots here at home, then they're 1 game apart with the tiebreaker in the series going down the stretch here. So, definitely a game they have to win if they want to contend for this division. Or will the Patriots solidify that they have locked that AFC East slot up by a victory here against the Bills? This is in New England in December. Could be potentially a weather thing that we also look out for, which is always fun as well. But yeah, I think it would be a surprise if the Patriots, going into the season, if you're like the Patriots are going to beat the Bills in both of their games, I think people would be like, "What?" Now at this point, you're like, "Oh, that makes sense." But the Bills have a chance to not let that be the case and still theoretically keep their division hopes alive.
If anyone's ready for New England weather, it's the team that just pulled out a win in the heaviest snow we've seen all year. So,
Right.
um, that could end up being a really fun one. I totally glazed over that one. The last one I see on here of any intrigue, because most of these are one good team, one maybe less
Sure.
competitive team, is Colts Seahawks. Obviously losing Daniel Jones, not having Anthony Richardson available, which I really hope he's able to make a full recovery. That's really sad. I doubt we see Phillip Rivers in this game, but holy smokes if we did, and even if we don't, um, the Colts are still close enough to making the playoff that their outcomes matter in the playoff picture. If they're able to steal one from Seattle, that could give us hope about what Riley Leonard or Brett Rippon could give them, or Rivers could give them. But getting a picture of what their playoff future could look like, or potential to make the playoffs could look like, is really important, while Seattle is just trying to keep themselves in the NFC West race in case the Rams stumble.
Yeah, we talked about this and alluded to it. We didn't talk about it in this segment. Lions at Rams. Hello?
I totally glazed over that. I don't know how I missed that. I'm
Um,
sorry. Thank you.
we did talk about it earlier, but for the Lions to really keep their playoff hopes alive and even their division hopes, this is going to be the most crucial matchup of the season. Obviously, not a division opponent like the Bears or Packers that are still contending for that spot, but a top team in the NFC. So the one seed, literally in the NFC right now, who have looked like world beaters for most of the season. So despite their upset to the or their upsetting loss to the Panthers, not the week that just happened, but the week prior, this is still a very scary team to contend with, and we're going to their home in LA to try to get into the playoff picture. As even though 8-5, we are outside looking in right now.
Are the Rams powerless against Blue Cats? Find out next week. Um,
And of course, there's always the Stafford Goff trade. That's always part of it. There's
of
all that
course,
stuff.
yeah. No, this is a really consequential one. I think that I've been reading a lot of the Lions playoff odds. I think if we go 3-1, we're in pretty good shape as long as one of those wins is against the Bears. That said, Dan Campbell doesn't think in terms of losses. He wants 4-0. This team will want 4-0. And the last two games the Lions and Rams have played have been really good games. Obviously, the Lions' first playoff win since the 90s, and then uh, the overtime Lions win over the Rams, I believe, to start their 15-2 season, if I'm not mistaken. So uh, I think this has all the makings of a great game for all viewers, not just us Lions fans. With that, are you ready to do one-liners?
I am so ready, Jared.
Do you want Falcon? Is there one you have in mind that you want to line up for here?
I haven't really thought about it, so not
Um,
particularly.
Neither have I. So I will start. I think I've got something percolating here.
Excellent.
Falcons, Bucks. The Falcons season's already been dashed. Will the Buccaneers have to lower the red flag and raise the white one after a potential division upset?
Mm, excellent. Excellent on your part. I will
Thank you.
take Raiders at Eagles. Will this be the first game in NFL history where the turnover number is greater than the quarterback number combined? Geno Smith wears seven, Jalen Hurts wears one. That's eight. Will there be more than eight turnovers?
Wow.
Uh,
That would be crazy.
Going off of the Jalen Hurts game that just happened and whatever the Raiders have done this season.
Raiders. Yeah. Give me 1 second because I've got a really good one from Cardinals
One.
Texans. I just want to make sure it lands. Um, Based on the strength of the Texans pass rush, Jacoby Brissett might enter in an away uniform, but he'll leave looking like he's wearing the division rival jersey instead.
Excellent, excellent. That's a great, yeah, that dirty looking jersey.
Excellent.
Um,
Thanks.
Insert something about D Hop for David Johnson, horrible trade that the Texans made um,
Good one.
several years back.
Good reference. Good pull. Good pull.
Jets at Jaguars. Um, Something about the Jets being grounded in Florida is where my head was going, and I can't put the thoughts together for my good one-liner here. Um, I also can't pull a single combined former player either, which is surprising to me.
I might have an insane pull. I think I've got one. If you don't mind tagging me in here.
Please help me, Jared.
The only Jets working in Florida this weekend are going to be the ones in the Jaguars in stadium pool.
Oh, okay. Do they have a pool in their stadium?
They do. They have a pool. I don't think it has jets, but they do have a pool in the stadium. You
I
got to
didn't
look it
know
up. It's
that.
ridiculous.
That's awesome. That's really
Uh,
good from you.
Thanks.
I like that.
Um, anyway, uh, that's good because Browns Bears is going to be much worse. Um, Browns Bears. Remember how good it felt to beat the Packers, Cleveland? Wouldn't it be nice to do it again? One more time, please, for me?
Excellent. Excellent. Panthers at Saints. Despite everyone thinking the Panthers have a run for this division title, Tyler Shuck goes back to back division upsets at home in New Orleans this week.
That would be insane, but it would be awesome. Oh boy. Um,
Correct?
I'm trying to find anything here.
That's fair. It's fair.
Titans, 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Nissan Stadium's near a river, and
Mm,
San Francisco's in the Bay Area. Water fight. Go football. What do you think?
mm.
Could have used work.
That one could use for probably a little bit of a touch up, I would say. Not the best pull, but not a horrible pull. I commend the effort
Here.
nonetheless.
Let's try this worst one. Um,
Great.
uh, Titans, 49ers. 49ers are digging for gold, while the Titans have to settle for tan.
Oh, that's I like that one. I like that one.
We're not putting that on a t-shirt.
You could have
But
even
that's okay.
split the Titans name. The tie settles for tan.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's could be something. Yeah, tie.
to combine into Titan. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We've lost the narrative at this point, I think.
Two more. We got to
That's
power through.
we gotta power through. I've been percolating trying to drum up something in my brain for Vikings at Cowboys. Um, ugh. This is not the Sunday night football game they thought it was going to be. That's not my one-liner. That's just an observation. What my one-liner is still has yet to come to me. Um,
Mike Zimmer
despite
was the head coach for the Vikings and defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, if you want to use that.
That's terrible. That's
Okay.
terrible. That's
Sorry, I'm
just
trying to help.
terrible.
I don't know.
It's yeah, it's I'm trying to think of players, I'm trying to think of narrative, I'm trying to think of oh, here we go. Vikings at Cowboys. Which NFC team will keep its super unrealistic playoff hopes alive?
Nicely done. Way to find relevance. Um, in a game that has totally lost any zip.
They're both
Okay.
like negative, like less than 1%, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, the model's like, please just let me eliminate these teams.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, okay. Dolphins, Steelers. Man, the Monday Night Football animations with those two teams is gonna go crazy.
Oh, brother. I can't believe. Here we go. Wait, tag me in, please.
Tag.
Dolphins at Steelers. Was Damon right about the Minka Fitzpatrick trade or what?
Let's go! Yes! That was great. That was so good. What a callback. Oh my gosh.
I
Um,
forgot about that one.
the Damon Bowl.
Oh, yeah, really. I need
Um,
to get all eyes on this game. I need to really pay attention.
this might be an auto pop just for that take.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I did see
Oh,
Jalen Ramsey try to make a play for the Steelers, so that was fun.
I feel like he looks worse and worse every game, which really helps me. Helps my case.
Well, hey, Slay was the one who got cut, so
It was a mutual parting of ways. Okay.
okay. Um I believe it. I mean if he doesn't want to play, I guess it would be a mutual parting, but anyway, that is all the games in what is sure to be a super exciting week 15 that's going to bring the future into focus. I'm thinking maybe we start to talk about some like early playoff matchups that we think could be exciting next week, something like that.
Yeah.
As we get more and more clarity on who the likely teams to consider and teams not to consider are. Um,
And a lot
We'll
of,
see.
a lot of these award races seem pretty open still. There doesn't seem to be a ton of like, yep, this guy is the surefire, X award.
That's true. There's not a lot of. I would say defensive player of the year is the only one that would be incredibly difficult to wrestle away if Miles Garrett hits the sack record. But otherwise, yeah, I would say
I do
most other
think
awards.
teammate Carson Schlesinger probably has locked up D Roy unless something crazy happens because a lot of guys have been underperforming on that side of the ball.
Yep, Abdul Carter with his problems with the Giants, it's just not going to happen.
No.
And I honestly can't think of any other defensive rookies who have made quite the impact Schlesinger has. He was, to his credit, making a lot of plays against the Titans, just kind of cleaning up the middle of their defense. So, are we ready for the field goal?
We're ready for the field goal. Which field goal would you like to amend this week, Jared?
To amend?
Isn't that the bit? You do a field goal that somebody missed.
Didn't the Eagles miss one in the first half against the Chargers? I thought there was a missed field goal in that game.
Um, I don't know.
Let me look up the Jake Elliott stats. Player stats. Eagles. I am wrong. I am wrong. Someone missed a kick.
It's what we're known for.
Oh, who missed an extra point or something that was costly? Oh, the Chargers kicker missed an extra point. Apparently, so maybe I can get that extra point back, so we don't even have to go to overtime.
Excellent, excellent. There you go. That's great. I like that. Let's do that. Let me get the post, of course.
All right. Oh, like, subscribe, engage, tell your friends.
Correct.
Uh,
Yes.
Ready? Kick is
Yes,
up.
sir. I have no idea where it went, but I think it was in the direction of the camera. Um, so being that it's an extra point, and I think it was in the relative direction, that kick is going to be good.